What's up, guys? Bones from Slasher Radio here, and we're going to be joined by Markiplier to talk his new Iron Lung film that is in theaters right now. We talked with Mark about everything Iron Lung, what went into making the movie, behind-the-scenes stuff, and we even talked some horror gaming, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Mark has finally commented on the FNAF chapter in Dead by Daylight. So make sure you slash those like and subscribe buttons, and if you want to hear the full episode featuring this interview, make sure you subscribe to the Slasher Radio podcast on iTunes, Spotify, even here on YouTube, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. You can find the links in our link tree in the description below. Now let's get into it.
Slasher Radio.
All right, I am here with Markiplier, gamer, YouTuber, content creator, but now actor, starring actor, writer, and director. And as if that's not enough, director of a movie that went #1 in the entire country.
And editor. Don't forget editor.
Editor, all of that, man. A man of a million hats. Thank you so much for your time, Mark. I appreciate it. Has all that sunk in yet?
Yes, I think so. My ego is large enough to let that all get in there. It just took a while at first. I think it has. There was more shock before the movie even came out. When the number of theaters started going up and up, that's when the shock was actually happening. Like, holy shit, they're actually going to see it. It was, and then there was another shock when the weekend came, but that was more just like having fun when it actually came out. And, you know, for that first Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we were #1, I was just like, I'm going to make so many jokes about this. This is super funny. And I thought it was going to be one day, and then I got another day. I'm like, okay, all right, enough, guys. You can stop watching it. This shouldn't keep going, and then it just kept going.
The joke's over now.
Yeah. And so and even this week we found out that we've won the week leading up to the second weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's like by the tiniest difference,
yeah.
But it's like #1, still #1. So it's very fun.
And you turned down, I'm kind of jumping around my sheet right now, but you brought it up. You turned down so much help. I mean, you had a ton of help. I mean, your team, you guys did an incredible job, you and your entire team. But you turned down so much help from so many different companies like distribution and, you know, all these things. And it was so important to you to keep this fully independent. I love that. I am a huge fan of indie films and anything indie horror, you know, in general. But how important was that to you to keep it independent, and what was your meaning behind it?
I think that I was super open to having conversations with people, and I had quite a few meetings. So it wasn't so much that I was like nobly like, I'm going to be the most independent person in the world. It just kind of was the circumstance, because there is still this thing where, you know, content creators aren't treated with like the most respect, and, you know, for good and bad reasons. Not really trying to worry about any of that, but it's they're not taken seriously as much, and that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to change. And when I've been able to self-finance and produce something for me, in my rare circumstance where I have a large following, I don't have to take a deal that's going to give up control of this movie, this thing that I made. A lot of people don't have that advantage, but I think that me coming from, you know, starting from nothing 14 years ago to doing a whole bunch of projects that never had any kind of success, and even big ones like YouTube Originals, even one that I got nominated for an Emmy for, never made a penny, didn't make many headlines. It didn't matter to anybody up until that point. So for this one, it's just like, hey, I have something, and all right, it's my expectations. No one really takes it seriously, so why not do this? So as a journey from a nothing to 14-year kind of career, that's 14 years to build up an audience to be able to do this for my own. So it's like that. It's 14 years to launch and have success in a project. That's a long time, but it's not the longest anybody's waited to get their chance. So yeah, I think that carrying it across the threshold and doing it independently kind of is important in that aspect, and kind of not, because, you know, the timelines people can if it's so long, they can dismiss how it started, or it's not independent because it crossed yada yada. And it's like, well, all my other projects that didn't do anything were also independent, but it only matters when it matters, and it matters how much that people attribute to it, what it matters, and people put the value in that they want into it. And so right now, I'll just say, like, yes, it was important, but maybe not for the reasons everyone thought.
Yeah, that's great to hear, though. Absolutely. What I was intending to start with was I wanted to make you aware, but it also kind of jumps right into what I want, topic I wanted to touch on. We have a yearly award show thing that we do, and it's called the Slashy Awards. And we have an award called the Spotlight Award, and it's for horror gaming. And, it highlights people who have done great things for the horror gaming world and all that. And you won that this year.
I did?
You did. And I feel like it was part of, I feel like.
Well, I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
Don't worry, a lot of people don't.
I'm so sorry.
But I feel like, yes, everything you've contributed to horror gaming, obviously that, goes without saying. But I also feel like part of why everyone went with you for this was because of how you transcended from that horror gaming world into horror film, which is a huge jump, huge accomplishment. What was this? And you kind of mentioned it, but is this something you always planned on doing? You always said, one day I want to be a filmmaker. And what's it feel like to finally make that jump?
I don't know if it was something I always wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to make higher production videos. That's like the vaguest definition that I could attribute to it. But I didn't have the skill. But I was making short films, and I was making sketch comedy videos, and I was, making these experiences, and I did see this trajectory start to form. Like, okay, I've made this. I've worked with a crew this size. I worked with a crew this size. I've built up this experience. I know how to do X, Y, and Z. I have a general understanding of this. So I was like, I could see where this was going. Filmmaking was this next step where, as a feature film, as a debut, it's important that this step is taken and taken as well as I could. But I still wouldn't say that from the very beginning I knew that it was like, I'm going to make a movie. It was only after I realized where I was in my career in that long run and what I could do if I was able to do this by myself. By myself is such a misnomer, because it's like,
absolutely,
obviously a huge crew of incredibly talented people. Even if I was writing, directing, acting, and editing, that's 4 roles out of what, 100, 150. Yeah. It's kind of just this culmination of a process, and all of my career has been kind of jumping on opportunities as they present themselves and trying to do the best I can when I get there, even if I don't feel like I'm ready for it. For this one, I did feel ready. Then when I was in the middle of it, I was like, oh, I'm not ready. And then, that passes, and it's like, okay, all right, I got through the hurdles. And then it came out, and yeah, it was way bigger than I think me or anyone else thought it ever could be.
And this was a long journey for you with Iron Lung. I read that official production started around 2022, but this is something that you've been, grinding at for such a long time. When did production officially start? How long has this been something you've been working on? Because your passion for it and your constant work is what got this here.
Yeah, I started writing these scripts September, October of 2022. Seriously, and then I think pre-production started in late January, kind of February, going into there. Our first day of filming was end of February, so it must have been earlier than that. The timeline's very foggy, but it was a 35-day shoot, and then I had a couple pickup days, and then I had the benefit being the actor and the editor. If I was in the edit and I was like, oh man, the numbers aren't quite right in the shot, I had the console from the set in my garage, so I would be able to go with a camera and just line it up, get the numbers right, get that shot, and then bring it into the edit. Very nice.
Yeah.
You don't often get to do that, and I'm not going to use that as a crutch going into the future, but it did add this element of okay, it allows me to learn a little bit about this process. I can see the gaps that I'm missing from my principal photography, and I'm able to fill them, because if I know how to point a camera and expose it right and get the lighting right and set up all this stuff, then I can do that. So it was learning all the way, and all it taught me was more pre-production. If I'd have more pre-production, there wouldn't have been this problem. yeah, so I think that the rest of it is just, I only had weekends to work on it. I have a bunch of other things with my YouTube channel and podcast and clothing company, and so really I only had time on weekends to make it happen, which is why it stretched so long. And then I had to live my own life,
Of course.
My wife and I, we got married.
Congratulations, yeah.
Thank you. But that'd been planning for like a year, and so there was a lot of like tenuous scheduling of like, I don't know when I'm going to be done with this. I've got so much left to do. So yeah, it was a 3-ish year total grind to get it to this point.
Wow. Yeah, that's very impressive. And like you said, you're not, you are now a director, but full time. Like you have so many other things to do. So that juggle must have, I could see the exhaustion.
It was hell. Man, it sucked. I'm not going to lie. As someone with ADHD, jumping back into something after I've set it down and picking right back up without having a day just to get the wheels spinning, that most of the time, that's the problem, is like I would pick back up and then that first day was just a waste. I'd be setting the hard drives back up, connecting all the files again, because I had to move it for some reason to do something else, and I'm setting it back up, or I don't remember what I was doing and I get distracted and I'm jumping over to another spot. Thankfully I didn't edit it all entirely by myself. I did all the final editing. The initial setting up of the project and initial scene layout was done by my team of editors. So the other people in the credits, the editors, those are the same ones that edit the YouTube videos and the podcast stuff. So we all work together, and they picked up a lot of little VFX things like painting in numbers and making sure the arrow was pointing and the lights were going, and then various things like that. So we all contributed. I just had the final. So, well, not the final. I basically re-put the whole show together, but it's like I'm not trying to be like I did so much, but it's like it took so long, man. It took so fucking long.
Yeah, I could imagine. I picture all your editors, because I didn't know that they were the same ones who did, your channel and your podcast and everything. They must have been like, he's making a movie now. We're gonna have to do this.
No, they loved it. I
bet,
it,
man.
Yeah, they were all about it. No, it was super fun.
Yeah, exciting for everybody.
Yeah.
You collaborated closely with the developer of Iron Lung, David Szymanski. What was that like? Because adapting a game into a movie, it's always that line, that very tricky line to walk. And there was so much mystery behind the story of the game. So that a lot of that story for the movie goes on your shoulders now. And you're working with David. What was your process like adapting the game into, because honestly, and I'm not even just saying this because you're here, I feel like Iron Lung walked that adaptation line better than most, if not, off the top of my head but like you guys did a really good job of taking that vibe from the game and putting it on film. What was your process like there?
Thank you for saying that. That was really what we were trying to capture above all else. I mean, I basically was talking to David in the initial few weeks, just like every once in a while we would get on a call and I would pick his brain about the universe and what he was thinking about it. And a lot of the time he would say, and this is no discredit to him, he'd go like, I didn't really think about it, because he's
who thought he'd be here? Yeah,
exactly. He would say the same thing. He's like, I didn't really think about it that much, but we figured it out together. We kind of shaped up what the surrounding circumstances were, because we already knew how the story arc would go. It would begin and end basically in the same place, but we knew, or at least I was talking about, like, I wanted to make sure the experience of watching it was this feeling contained in a movie form, and to do that you have to make changes. There has to be you have to bend the rules but not break them for what the movie is. So it's like it has to be single location because that's what the game is.
Right.
Can't get away with it. But I bent it in a few things, like as much as I could. And spoilers, going back up into the tow ship was not in the game, but it was like, that's bending the rules. It's still in the ship, but it's in a different location that's not the ocean. So by doing that, I'm able to give more contextualization about the surrounding circumstances that you couldn't get from the game. You're able to see the people that's on the other side, but barely. That's why to get that feeling, we talk through a lot of these things like, okay, we want this obfuscation. No matter what, even if there's someone standing right on the other side, they're they're covered blood, like jail bars, and like thick glass, really smeared, distorted lighting on the other side. You hear all these things happening around the sub, but you don't know what they are, just like down in the ocean. So it had to match that feeling no matter what. And he can't hear it very well like that. There were some theaters that had audio problems. That was actually a theater issue and not necessarily the mix, but some of the mix is intentionally meant to be obscured because it is that kind of obscuration that makes people lean in, right? They lean in because they're like, I want to hear. Yeah, what was that? Yeah. Exactly. I want them to ask that, and that's because that's part of
that came across.
Game. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it was hard to do that, right? It's hard to go into a movie press being like, no, you're not going to see it. No, you're not gonna know for sure. We're gonna put all these red herrings in here that make you think one thing, but the truth is another. And if you think about it deeper, you can get to the truth. But it's like we want to put barrier because right. It makes. Because without the barriers being put, no one's going to look around the barrier. No one's going to do this. They're not going to keep, God, fucking, what the hell, all these trees, God damn it. I want to see the thing, and it's that desire. And so in that, also in the story, is very much about, like, we wrote it in a way that was like, I want this desire to know, to see. The desire for knowledge is a very common theme in the movie, because that is the theme of the game, is like the desire to know, that you're down there in a mission to find out what's there, because they don't know, or at least they say they don't know, So, but it's all about perspective, and by putting blinders on, the perspective of everyone changes, because what happens is what happens, but what people say what happens isn't always true, because their perspective is different. And this, again, talking more loose use, I can ramble about this forever. I'll pause so you can ask another question.
No, it all like I say that all the time about movies, man. The imagination, no matter what you do, it could be, the next Jurassic Park, like the most incredible thing in the world you've ever seen. But the imagination is so much more powerful. And I get that. That came across 1,000,000%, and I love that so much.
Thank you.
So what's next for Markiplier? In obviously not exact, because, we don't know what it is yet. But, what hopes do you have? Is this a one and done film? I really hope not. Are you going to continue down the video game adaptation road? Anything original?
So I've thought about this a bit more now. I always knew I was going to make another one. Not another Iron Lung. I'm not talking sequel, just like another
part 2 confirmed.
Oh my god, no! I've said it. It's out there. No, because mostly I don't want to do that again. I don't want to go in there again. I don't want anything. Oh, the blood. I don't want to have to do more blood. Oh god. But I would say, the first thing I want to do is I want to get back to YouTube, because I've been missing just like the cycle is so cathartic of just making a video and it comes out. A 3-year wait to make something is so hard. You don't get that feedback, and thankfully, like my fans have been there for so long, so patient for this to come out, and I wanted to blow their minds when it came out, and I think I accomplished that at least a little bit. But what I want to do is build up a pipeline. Because I feel like what I discovered most about the movie making pipeline is that there are an incredible number of inefficiencies, and there's an incredible number of old habits. I'm not talking during production, I'm talking post-production. The kind of pipeline that feeds into it getting eventually to a screen. And that's not to say like the post house I was working with or the VFX company were bad. They weren't. It's not that problem. It's a segmentation problem. Everyone is working in these different camps, and there's a translation problem with going there. Even in a day and age where you have like DaVinci and it can do almost every step of the process of making a movie in one software, there's still all these other pieces of software that get in the way and make it difficult, and you have to do all these conforms and stuff. I want to build a pipeline for me, now that I've learned and done it myself the way it's traditionally done, that I think it could be done a little more efficiently. I'm not saying better. It might not be better, but it'll be better for me, right? It'll be better for the way I work and the kind of iterativeness that I do, and the kind of flexibility that I want when making these things. So I'm going to spend like a year building up that pipeline while I just do YouTube videos and get caught up on the rest of my life. I haven't even taken my honeymoon yet.
Oh my God. Okay. That one's got to be good.
Yeah. So I got to make it up to her for that one. Yeah, for sure. But pipeline.
Beautiful. Can't wait to see what you have coming up, man. I have one last question for you. Mm-hmm. And I would be like dragged outside and beaten by our listeners and my community if I didn't ask you this.
Okay.
You're deemed the king of FNAF. Like it's just undisputable at this point, I think. They recently had they're making new games and whatever else. And But they did something a little different, and they collaborated with Dead by Daylight. And I haven't seen anywhere. I don't know if you have. What are your thoughts on that collaboration and seeing them brought into that world?
I mean, that's fine. To be perfectly honest, I don't really play Dead by Daylight. I played it a couple times.
That's all right.
But where I play these games, I don't usually play multiplayer games on endlessly.
Right.
I usually play a game once, and it's like, okay, that was good. I'm not really a replay kind of guy, except for certain games that really catch my attention, and they're kind of built into the things. Like Hades and Hades 2 were great because it's like, oh my God, there's so much to discover. I like that where it's part of the experience, but it's fine. It makes sense that it integrates if people like it or are a fan of that, and it works, and there's a nice villain. I believe it's Springtrap that's the killer.
Yes.
And so it's like, great if it works. Like I'm all for creative integrations and things like that.
Right.
If people like it and it's done with respect, then yeah, sure, why not? I'm not gonna stop anyone from trying something. If it crashes and fails, hey, at least you tried.
That is a beautiful outlook. If it burns, it burns.
Yeah, that's what I do. It just so happens I've had less things burn, but I've had plenty of things burn. Trust me. There's been many projects that crash and burn and people forget about just because there weren't a bunch of headlines written about it.
That is the goal in life. The less fires, the better, but there are fires.
Yeah, you gotta light some.
Something that is on fire is Iron Lung. Mark, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time, and honestly, thank you for what you've done for the genre.
Oh,
The gaming thing, like I mentioned, obviously, but you jumping into movies. I've said since Iron Lung came out, we need new creative minds behind the camera, and that is what you are, dude, and that's what you bring, and we appreciate you for it, man. Thank you for everything, all the hard work you put into this.
You should see what the next guy's gonna make, or girl. You should see what the next person's gonna make.
That's the thing, and that's the road. That's part of it. We appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much for everything you've done, and thank you for your time today, man.
Hey, no problem. Have a good one.
Have a good rest of your day, brother. Appreciate you guys.